The sun is just rising over Lake Baringo, the rays beautifully reflecting on the calm water. We arrive at Kambi ya Samaki at exactly 6 a.m. along the shores of Lake Baringo, ready to embark on a tour of schools which were affected after the lake water levels increased dramatically. We are heading to Coco Island, a 30-minute boat ride from the mainland. Upon arrival, we come across dozens of children gathered at the edge of the lake. Their school is a victim of the lake bursting its banks. Dressed in yellow and green, the children sit quietly at the rocks waiting for a boat ride to school. In the past, going to school was easy. There was a footbridge that connected the island and the school. The bridge was swallowed by the rising waters in Baringo. These pictures were first captured by NTV in 2018. Then the lake was 5 meters away from Coco Island Primary School, but now it has found its way to the institution. The school gate is partially submerged and no longer in use. The teacher staff houses were also not spared. They are flooded and unlivable.
Kuna nyumba walimu kama 3 imeenda kwa maji, na kuna tena hiyo sekenge ya shule ilienda kwa ndani ya maji. Na tuliweza kungangana tu kutoa hiyo machuma, lakini otherwise ingine hajatoka. Tulipata machuma chache. Kuna choo ilienda ndani ya maji, kuna choo ya boys na kuna choo 2 tena ya girls. Na lakini tulikaa chini kama BMU members na tukasema tukadecide ya kwamba tutatengeneza choo moja yenye itaweza kusaidia.
Surrounded by water on all sides, the pupils are stuck. Here, boat transport is the main means of reaching school. Each morning, the boat goes along the lake picking up pupils. Giggling and chatting, children rush to board the boat. The available boat is too small and has to make several trips to ferry all the pupils.
Bado ni kasi kwa sababu atazunguka mara 7, 8, 9, saa zingine anaenda 10. Inategemea tena na waves. Hata jioni kama kuna waves, anabeba watoto kama 10. Na tena hii motorboat inatumia mafuta mingi sana na ni expensive sana. Tunatumia kama 50 liters per day na 1 liter ni 120 kwa per day. Sasa shule ikikosa mafuta, inabidi tena sasa tutumie sasa miko ya kutumia nayo. Lakini uso steps kwa sababu saa zingine kuna waves ikikuja jioni. Kuna waves inatoka pande ama pande ile. Sasa waves ikikuja hata hiyo boat kulani ni shida. Na sasa hiyo ni challenges mingi sana kwa sababu wakati unafukisha hao unatumia nguvu. Na inataka wanaume kama 3. Saa zingine inabidi tu mpaka ni wasasi ndio wanagaramia. Lakini inabidi tu kwa sababu saa zingine tunakosa kabisa. Saa zingine mwalimu anangangana kwa sababu anataka tu kuona watoto kwa shule. Kwa sababu anaelewa vile watu wanakaa pande. Jua watu wa pande sisi tunategemea fishing, hakuna namna nyingine. Kama ukienda tu kwa net, kama hujapata leo samaki, siku hiyo bahati mbaya.
Those who own private boats charge 60 shillings per child. Not all parents can afford it. Children coming from other islands are disadvantaged as they have to find their own means to reach school. They use light rafts made from ambach tree wood. Every morning they paddle their way in makeshift, leaky rafts to reach school. For the paddles, they have to improvise and use plastic. Transport is very risky. The young learners face the danger of their tiny crafts being swamped by waves. The waters of Lake Baringo are filled with predators.
Hapa iko na iko crocodile. Na tunaona kwamba hiyo yote ni wanyama dangerous sana. Na hata wakati tunafuga kwa bahari, tunakuanga very careful kwa watoto kwa sababu ya hiyo maipo.
Once they arrive at school, they park their rafts at the edge of the lake, their uniforms already wet. Danger is always lacking as predators hide beneath the rocks. The school does not have a feeding program. Because of the expenses to and from school, pupils no longer go back home for lunch.
Zamani walikuwa wanaenda tu lunch. Wanaenda tu by saa 6:45 wanaenda, wanarudi tu saa 8 kabla hiyo saa 8. Hao bora saa kula lunch, hao wengine wana survive mpaka jioni. Wanakaa tu hivyo. Wanakunywa maji, wanakaa mpaka jioni. Na tumekaa juu chini tukafikiria hiyo maneno, tukaona ni hakuna mwanadamu anaweza survive mpaka hiyo saa. Tukaona kwamba labda serikali at least awapate tu kitu ya kukula, wapate kusurvive.
For children in lower classes, the elder siblings have the responsibility to make sure they get home safely. Classes end at 1 p.m. With the makeshift rafts, they pair in twos and wade their way slowly home. It's a tedious exercise for the young learners. Lack of paddlers means they have to improvise. Once they get home, the elder siblings have to make the journey again back to school for the afternoon classes. Lake Baringo is dotted with 7 small islands. Residents here say all the islands have been affected by the natural calamity. The islands are slowly disappearing.
Sana sana mvua inanyeshanga na maji inatoka pande hii. Sisi tunapata tu mvua kidogo, lakini maji mingi inatoka pande hii. Kuna hii marifa kama Perekera, kuna ingine tena iko pande hii inaitwa Endau. Hizo ndio inaleta maji mingi sana. Inafanya lake raise kwa haraka. Na tumeona ya kwamba hapa hata wasai ukijaribu kuangalia hapa hata hakuna mvua.
From Kokwa Island, we head to another flooded school. Naskura Primary School is partially submerged. All the classrooms, pit latrines, school administration block are flooded. The school, which was built 5 years ago, served more than 5 villages. Residents who once called this place home relocated after persistent conflict drove them away from their original homes. But when the water started rising, they were displaced yet again. Filming the institution proved to be a difficult task for the NTV crew. The school is totally inaccessible and cannot be used. All the classrooms were marooned by floods. Nasukura Primary School is among dozens of institutions that were flooded, partially submerged or completely submerged by the rising levels of Lake Baringo. The entire institution is covered by water. We can't believe that this was once a vibrant area with homestays, trading centers, a police post, and even a hospital. But all that is gone. For now, the pupils and parents have moved to higher ground, 5 kilometers away from the flooded school. With no facilities in place to accommodate them, the pupils and students now face a new unpleasant reality. The tents, which house temporary classrooms, have plastic roofs. This allows sunlight to filter in, but it also makes learning unbearable for the young learners. Unlike some schools which lost everything, here some furniture was salvaged from the old school. The primary school initially had 200 learners, but only 91 pupils have reported back to school. In PP1, 13 pupils reported to school, while only 4 pupils in PP2 resumed studies in January. Grade 1 has only 10 learners. Grade 2 has 2 pupils, while Grade 3 has 11 learners. Grades 4 and 5 have 10 learners each. Pupils were seriously affected because their homes were also flooded, forcing some families to relocate to far-off places. Others have transferred to other schools. COVID-19 is the least of the problem here. According to teachers, what keeps learners in school is the feeding program.
Ili ifutie hiyo idadi kamili ijae, lazima niwe na chakula yenye naweza lisha wao, wakule wawe na nguvu. Kuna wanafunzi wanalala bila kupata chakula. So hata asubuhi inabidi aende, wako na changamoto wanaenda kufua samaki. Hao watoto wadogo wanaweza pata hii kanuu, unapata wameendesha, wanaenda fua samaki, kuna ready market. Sasa watoto wengi wako kazi ya samaki, kufua samaki.
The end to the problem is in sight for Nasukra Primary School. 10-acre piece of land has been donated by the community. However, they lack the workforce to help clear the land and set up permanent structures. The school management is waiting for 2 million shillings promised by the Ministry of Education to relocate and build infrastructure. Our next stop is Salabani Mixed Day and Boarding Secondary School, which was situated along the shores of Lake Baringo. Navigating to the school is a hard task due to the vast swath of trees, twigs and branches that have been deposited in unwanted locations. The school's infrastructure was submerged. Everything is under the waters of the swollen Lake Baringo, including classrooms, library and administration block. The water has covered the entire school compound up to the walls of the classrooms. Only the red rooftop is visible, and twigs that stick out of the mass of water in an area that once hosted the institution. The school was relocated to a new site more than 5 kilometers away from the flooded area. As soon as the water level started rising, the school administration managed to salvage laboratory equipment, desks and books from the school and ferried them using boats. Form 4s are studying in a temporary classroom made of the corrugated iron sheet walls with openings cut out for ventilation. Even so, the room is not satisfactory.
Saa hii wanasomea darasa 2 ya mabati na ni jua ni kali. Najua mabati ni joto sana wakati huu.
Form 3s and 2 study under trees and have had to bear the brunt of the scorching sun, an environment they are forced to adapt to as a school.
Hata wako karibu na barabara, pikipiki ikipita huko, gari ikipita huko. Unajua lazima watoto wakiona gari ama pumbi ama pikipiki wataangalia.
The situation is not any better for the teachers. They too have to operate from under a tree.
Tumepata NGO 2 ambayo umetusaidia. Ingine umetusaidia choo, ingine umetusaidia madarasa 2 ya mabati. Na saa hii kuna ujenzi ya madarasa 2 kupitia CDF. So hiyo bado haitoshi. Kwa sababu administration block bado hatujakuwa nayo. Walimu saa hii wanafanya chini ya miti kwa staff room.
At night, the students sleep under tents as they await the government to construct classrooms and dormitories for them.
Zamani kabla mafuriko kuingia, wazazi hawakuwa na shida sana ya pesa kwa sababu walikuwa wanakata miti, wanachoma makaa ya service na wanapata mahali kidogo ya kuuza. Lakini wakati huu hizo miti zote zimesombwa na maji. Kwa hivyo wazazi wengi saa hii hawana mahali mzuri ya kuweza kujitegemea kukata makaa. Pia manyumba zao zilienda na maji, mashamba pia ilienda na maji. Kwa hivyo hata saa hii kupata pesa ni Mungu tu peke yake. Watu hata saa hii kusurvive kupata chakula inakuwa vigumu.
All this are unwelcome distraction for the students of Salabani Mixed Secondary School. Social distancing among the students is not observed.
Kwa wakati huu sasa ni wakati ambaye corona inatangazwa kwa Kenya mzima. Na hata watoto pia wajokuwa na mask ya kutosha kwa wakati huu. Tungeomba pia serikali watuongezee mask kwa hao watoto. Wakati huu saa hii pesa ni ngumu kupatikana. Hata karo ya shule. Ingawaje tunasikia serikali wanasema watoto wasifukuzwe, lakini watoto watafukuzwa tu kwa sababu mwalimu anasema hakuna chakula. Sasa watoto watakula nini wakikaa kwa shule?
The story is the same at Gambo Girls Secondary School. Here, the infrastructure was fully submerged under the waters of the swollen Lake Baringo. When schools reopened in January, stranded learners were merged with students of Lake Bogoria Girls Secondary School, which was spared the flooding. The institution initially had 600 learners. Over 200 students from Gambo Girls Secondary School were placed here. The school now has a population of 800 students. Classes are congested with about 50 to 60 learners in one class.
Ukiangalia watoto wa Ngambo walikuwa nyuma kidogo kuliko hawa wengine. Sasa itabidi saa hii tena walimu wafanye kazi ngumu ili waweze kurejesha watoto hawa wakuwe sawa na wale wa ng'ambo. Kwa hivyo tungeomba kabisa kama ni kuongezewa walimu, tuweze kuongezewa walimu.
The school does not have enough classrooms to meet the social distance guidelines set by the government.
Tunajaribu ama walimu wanajaribu kuhimiza watoto waweze kunawa mikono na pia at least wakuwe na hiyo social distance kidogo.
The distance is not possible to observe because not all schools can afford new classrooms. So what is being observed is the mask. All schools have thermogun. They are able to check temperatures every day and know if there's anybody in danger. But so far, we don't have a case. In fact, Marigat sub-county has not had any case of corona since it started.
Some classes have to be conducted under trees due to lack of sufficient classrooms. This subjects them to the vagaries of weather such as strong winds, dust, and the scorching sunshine. Lack of space means what used to be a store is now the teacher's staff room. The school has only 3 dormitories, which cannot cater for all 800 students.
Kila moja imejaa. Ingine inafaa watoto 80 walale, lakini ni wasichana 100. Alafu ingine inafaa wasichana 100, wasichana 110 wanalala.
The institution has now been forced to convert the dining hall into a dormitory.
Wenye wanalala hapo ndani ni wasichana 350. Wasichana wawili wanalala kwa kitanda kimoja. Hakuna hata nafasi ya hawa kutembea ndani. Wanalala tu hivyo, wakiamka asubuhi wanakaa sana tu kimaisha.
With the first term of the school year already underway, the institution is finding it hard to accommodate the huge number of students due to lack of infrastructure.
Maji ile kidogo tunapata ni ile principal anatunulia kwa county. Hiyo maji sasa ndio inatumika kukunywa. Watoto wanatumia kukunywa. Yenye tunatumia sasa hivi kuosha nguo, kutubia jikoni, ni ile inapambiwa kwa mtoni. Tunaomba wahisani watusaidie kutuchimbia maji safi ili tusikuwe na shida ya magonjwa, watoto wakunywe maji safi.
When the government delayed to release the funds, parents of Ngambo Girls Secondary School conducted a funds drive and constructed makeshift classroom at a new site located 9 kilometers away from the submerged institution. The move is meant to provide an alternative learning environment for the more than 200 students. Learners are yet to relocate due to lack of infrastructure. At the submerged Lake Baringo Mixed Secondary School, a newly constructed laboratory, 2 dormitories, 4 classrooms, kitchen and 2 toilets have been swallowed by the lake waters, including the playing field. The school, which is totally inaccessible, incurred a loss of more than 50 million shillings after it was submerged. According to parents, the government had promised to release some funds for the institution to relocate and build infrastructure, but no money has been released by the Ministry of Education. Swelling lakes have partially or completely submerged up to 17 schools in Baringo County, 12 primary, 5 secondary, and 22 early childhood institutions.
There are schools affected in Baringo North, there are schools affected in Pokot East, but Pokot East is 1 school, and Baringo North, 2 schools. The ones that are partially submerged are in use. Maybe if the toilets are submerged, they are being done, but those schools are in use. The ones that were completely submerged have found land elsewhere. Children are affected in terms of school and their homes. They also lost their homes. They have moved to different places. So children who have not reported in the schools which have moved is because their parents might have moved to another place and they are attending schools the nearest school to where they have moved.
With no sign of the waters receding, communities here have provided alternative land for construction of new education facilities.
These lands have been allocated by Ministry of Lands. They have been, the government department of survey have surveyed them and given allotment letter. And they are far from the lake.
In 2020, the Ministry of Education deployed a team to survey the affected schools and promised to allocate funds to relocate the schools and rebuild them on safer grounds.
The minister has already indicated that they are going to send money to schools that were affected to take care of toilets that were submerged. There were schools where dormitories were submerged. And we have done the paperwork, and the ministry have promised to quickly deal with that. It is the speed with which the reconstruction has been done that is worrying, because if the rainy season comes again before the classrooms are moved from under trees, then it will be a challenge. I think that is the main thing. But we are appealing to everybody, well-wishers, government, to see into it that these children are taken care of so that they don't feel the disaster in their heads, so that they learn like any other child in Kenya.
There are very many calamities around Lake Baringo, around Lake Victoria. We have challenges and we are dealing with them. And as rains continue to pound, the government is very much aware through the interministerial committee that we shall deal with each situation as it arises. The two schools in Baringo that cannot be rehabilitated again, we have given 10 million shillings each to one of them to start the process of, first of all, you have to identify new land and proceed with the rehabilitation. Those who have moved to other schools and were small, they have been given 4 million shillings around Baringo to ensure that the children are comfortable. Once the land issues are done, we are rebuilding them. The third one, who only accepted on the day of opening, will now have to wait for money to come from somewhere. But in the meantime, as far as the children are concerned, the children are in school. Some of them have been adopted by other schools nearby. If the population is large, we are even happy that they are learning in tents outside. So there is no child, as I speak, that will have no place to go. And like we have given 10 million, when more money comes in July, we shall prioritize, and those schools most likely will be ready to be reoccupied.
You know, other Kenyans right now are ready to do the exams. They are counting days. My students, my pupils are counting days under trees, which is not right at all. And I want to urge the Ministry of Treasury that please, can you release this money that has not been released to the Ministry of Education so that they can now reconstruct these classes. At least we get something, a shelter. When our pupils or students, candidates are doing their exams, they have an opportunity, at least somehow relevant to the exam.
But until new classrooms are built, learners will have to cope with the new normal of congested classrooms, studying under trees and makeshift structures. Rozongoi, NTV in the county of Baringo.